Hello, and thank you for joining our panel today to learn more about computer vision at Amazon. My name is Lindsay Weil, and I am an academics program manager. So you're going to hear from me for a little bit today, and then I'm going to pass it over to the individuals you actually want to hear from. So we have Srinath Sridhar, who's an Amazon visiting academic and an assistant professor at Brown University. We also have the opportunity to hear from Thomas Brox, an Amazon scholar and professor at the University of Freiburg. And last but not least, we have Zoen Tu, an Amazon scholar and professor at UC San Diego. Before I turn it over to these wonderful academics, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about some of our team's programs at Amazon and additional opportunities for academics at all stages to collaborate with Amazon in different capacities. As mentioned, two of the individuals on our panel today are Amazon scholars. The Amazon Scholar Program launched in 2018. Our scholars are senior level academics from around the globe working on world-class research problems in an industry context at Amazon. Scholars join Amazon in part-time capacities without leaving their academic institutions. The Scholars Program currently has academics from over 50 universities from across the globe. For more information about the Amazon Scholars Program, please visit amazon.science/scholars. Additionally, I mentioned that Srinath Sridhar is an Amazon visiting academic. Amazon Visiting Academics, or AVA, is Amazon Science's newest academic collaboration. The Visiting Academics program is a complement to the Scholars Program in that it allows academics to work at Amazon in a part-time capacity without leaving their university. While the Scholars Program caters to luminaries in different science fields, Visiting Academics is a program for pre-tenure to newly tenured academics with professorial affiliations at universities around the globe. Please visit our website to learn more at amazon.science/visiting academics. Amazon is also really lucky to work with academics through our graduate internship program. Amazon hires PhD and master students who can go beyond the coding of engineers and dive deep into research investigations as scientists. The majority of our technical internships take place in the summer and last between 12 to 16 weeks. International and domestic candidates are eligible to apply, and the 2022 applications begin in September. Those three programs are just a piece of what we're offering from an academic collaboration standpoint. There are many additional ways for academics to engage with Amazon through different funding mechanisms and training resources. Please screenshot this slide and visit the associated website to learn more about all of these different opportunities.
Right. Thanks, Lindsay. And hello, everyone. As Lindsay mentioned, my name is Srinath. I'm an assistant professor of computer science at Brown University. I also spend part of my time as an Amazon visiting academic. And my primary area of research is in 3D computer vision and machine learning, with particular emphasis on robotics problems. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about high-level information about some of the robotics work that we do here at Amazon. So robotics is deployed widely across different areas within Amazon. Some of you might have seen some of these in the popular press. An example is Prime Air, which is basically the drone-based aerial robotics part of Amazon, where the idea is to deliver packages at your doorstep. Robots are also widely deployed across different areas of Amazon. And in particular, I'm part of the robotics and AI division, where we are really interested in developing and deploying robotics and AI solutions to practical problems in Amazon fulfillment centers. So what is a fulfillment center? Well, fulfillment centers are essentially Amazon warehouses, which deal with the logistics of making sure that an order that you place on Amazon is delivered from vendors, sorted, packaged, and sent so that you receive it on time. So as you can imagine, it represents a very important part of what we do here at Amazon. And it turns out that robotics is quite useful in many practical problems within these fulfillment centers. One of the problems that occurs quite often within fulfillment centers is the task of picking an object from one part of the fulfillment center and placing it on another part. So here's a video of This is a video of one of our robots picking an object from one conveyor and placing it on another conveyor. Now, these could be prepackaged objects or packages that you see here, or they could be unpackaged items. But this process of picking items and packages from one conveyor or one part of the fulfillment center and placing it in another part occurs quite often within Amazon fulfillment centers. And this problem in robotics is often referred to as the pick and place problem. So picking an object from one point and placing it on another point. And it represents a wide variety of challenges, right? So this is a problem that is actively researched in the academic community and has practical applications at Amazon as well. So I'm going to give a high-level glimpse of some of the technical challenges that are involved in this pick and place problem, and just an overview of some of the problems that we work here at Amazon. And I'm focusing here mostly on computer vision challenges because that is my primary area of interest. But of course, there are other challenges as well in terms of control and planning. So some of the problems that we deal with are with items, which could look very similar and often occur in large amounts of clutter and lots of items. So we need to kind of develop computer vision tools that are able to separate out these items using cameras that are located within fulfillment centers. We also have to deal with a wide range of items. We're not talking about tens of items, but we're talking more like hundreds of thousands of different items that are found in the Amazon catalog. And of course, from a computer vision algorithm perspective, we're really interested in developing algorithms that can tell us where to pick these objects, so generation of pick points within objects, and how to process sensor information, for instance, from color cameras or from depth cameras, so that we can segment out these objects and separate them, package them, and send it off to our customers. So there's a lot of really interesting research questions and unsolved research questions that we need to address in order to solve this problem of fulfilling customer orders at Amazon.com. Now, what I've talked about so far is just a very high-level overview of some of the problems that me and my colleagues here work at Amazon. And in the last minute or so, I'm going to spend some time talking about how being both at Brown University and at Amazon has been very synergistic in terms of the benefits and the ideas and the problems that we solve in both of these places. So I strongly believe that if you're really interested in deploying robots at scale in the real world, Amazon is the place to do robotics research because of two reasons. The first is that we can take the latest or we can develop the latest academic advancements and apply it to unstructured settings like what you would find in a fulfillment center, an image of which is shown here. And the second reason is that we are operating at Amazon scale, right? So we're not operating in a very structured lab setting with a few tens of items, but we are operating with hundreds of thousands of different kinds of items. So the kinds of research questions that these unstructured and Amazon scale settings pose are really intellectually curious and important problems, robotics problems and computer vision problems to solve. The second reason, of course, is just like we do in academia, we set ambitious goals within Amazon. A good example of this, again, is the pick and place problem, where it's not enough for us to correctly pick and place 90% of the objects. We have to do much better than that, because if we do 90%, it means that we miss 10% of packages of customers, and that's just unacceptable. And finally, being at university and at Amazon provides mutually beneficial perspectives. So the theoretical problems that we think about in academia find practical applications within Amazon. And some of the practical problems in Amazon fulfillment centers lead to new theoretical perspectives in academia. So personally, I have found it very useful to kind of have a feet on both these places. So with that, I'd like to thank the opportunity for making this short presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions later in the panel. Thank you.
Rox, I'm an Amazon scholar who joined the Tübingen Lablet about 1 year ago. So here you see the whole team. So you see it consists of 3 scholars and 4 full-time researchers. And about the concept of lablets in Amazon, there's also a Shanghai lablet and a Palo Alto lablet. And the idea of these lablets in Amazon is to follow a longer-term research agenda that is not directly bound to a product or a service, but to act at a meta level for the whole company. And that means that you can actually have science impact on one hand, but also reaching many customers if one of your ideas is successful and also applies to customer problems. So the Tübingen lablet specializes on causal representation learning. So when I was first confronted with the term of causality, then it also sounded a bit abstract to me. And I think that happens to a couple of people. But on the other hand, causality is actually pretty natural for scientists, because in science we try to find the causal principles in nature or in our technology. So it's not sufficient that you find a correlation in some data, but you actually want to figure out that it's really a causal relationship. And that is not always easy. Yeah. So for example, in this COVID situation, we sometimes relations, but they were not actually caused by something that we thought would be the cause. And the hypothesis here in the Tübingen lablet is also that this is a problem partially in current machine learning, because it's based on statistical learning identically and independently data. So each sample is actually its independent sample, and the samples don't have anything to each other, which means that you actually cannot do real good causal representation learning. And we believe that this purely statistical learning is also responsible for many issues in practice. So for example, we see that we have lacking robustness of methods, so small changes in the data can suddenly have unexpected effects. Also, lack interpretability of our results, so we cannot exactly tell in all the cases why something failed or why something worked. And also the generalization, although it's much better than what we had 10 or 20 years ago, is still not as perfect as we would expect, as we know from nature, for example. And we also see that we require rather huge data sets to be really successful on some tasks, and it requires artificial annotation. And all this is very different from the learning that we find in nature. So there we learn actually from non-IID data. So for example, videos. So the data is related to each other. And we also learn from natural supervisory signals. So not from artificial annotation. For humans, it's a bit special because we also have language. So we can actually learn from our parents via language. But that's not the main signal that is driving the very young babies. Yeah, so that means the natural supervisory signals are very important, and they are underestimated maybe in current machine learning. And also we are using a lot of intervention. So for example, young children at a certain age, they always drop certain things to actually learn what is the effect of that something is heavy, when does it fall and when does it not fall. And that's actually some intervention that allows them to do causal learning. Yeah, so they find that if they move it away from the table, so it has no support anymore, then the thing will drop. Yeah, so they find out the cause of something dropping. And these are the principles that we want to pick up and also bring into machine learning. And one example maybe that is quite successful and that is used by the community quite a lot is the data augmentation, which is currently the most powerful tool probably for robustness. And it can actually be derived from causal principles, namely the principle of invariance and also the principle of intervention, that you're actually taking one sample and you're changing the sample in a certain way. And it's also based on non-IID subsets, because you actually take one sample and you're modifying it so all the samples within this batch are dependent on each other. So that's the motivation why this causal representation learning should be actually quite promising. But we should also say that the ImageNet moment of causal representation learning has not happened yet, at least not in computer vision. And that's a bit our job to make progress here. Causality has already been successfully applied on simpler data, especially on simpler time series data, but also tabular data. So there you can have, for example, good effects on interpretability and also on higher robustness. And the questions that we are working on is, can we extend this to higher dimensional vision data? So for example, videos. And vision is particularly hard because the current process that we're using is actually anti-causal. And we have this very high dimensional data, which makes the schemes that we typically know not applicable. And then the question is also, how can we implement interventions? So I already told about data augmentation as a very simple one. But if we want to generalize this to more naturalistic settings, yeah, some paths go via generative models. You can also use simulations or embodied learning via robotics. These are all ways on how you could use also interventions. And then the question is, will causal learning really yield this expected robustness and generalization that I motivated before? And how will this affect products and services in Amazon? And not only in Amazon, also maybe in other companies and other domains. And we are still looking for a few scientists. So if you feel you're a top scientist, then you can also apply directly with our manager. And the email you find here, so just send him your CV and then it will be considered. So thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Tu. I'm an Amazon scholar with the Amazon AWS Computer Vision Science team. Today, I'll be presenting two CVPR 2021 papers along the line of self-supervised and semi-supervised learning. The availability of large-scale data sets is one of the driving forces for the advancement of the recent deep learning and computer vision field. However, obtaining large-scale data sets is both expensive and time-consuming. Self-supervised learning is an emerging technique that can help alleviate the burden of requiring fully supervised data, in particular for pre-training. The first work is called Exponential Moving Average Normalization for Self-Supervised and Semi-Supervised Learning by Zhao Cai, Avinash Ravichandra, Subrasu Maji, Charles Focus, Zoan Tu, and Stefano Soato. Self-supervised learning can be typically understood under a student-teacher framework. Given an image, two views are typically being generated. One goes through a student model, the other one goes through a teacher model. Then a consistency loss is being computed in the spirit to hold closer the two views of the same image while pushing away the views of different images. Batch normalization is a standard technique used in training deep models. However, in the context of self-supervised learning, batch normalization has some problems if used directly. One is called cross-sample dependency. There's information leakage. Second is called the model mismatch, because the way the student model and teacher model are learned are different from how batch normalization is computed. Because of that, alternative approaches have been used. In this work, called the exponential moving average, we provide an alternative. In standard batch normalization, a sample is being normalized using the mean and the variance computed for each individual batch. In the Yeeman algorithm, each sample is also being normalized. However, the mean and the variance are computed and updated under exponential moving average principle as well. This is the pseudocode above here is standard explosion moving average update for the teacher model. Down below is the EMAN algorithm that updates the batch normalization statistics under explosion moving average principle as well. That makes updating the teacher model and the computing the statistics consistent. EMAN has been used in self-supervised learning and semi-supervised learning. There's a consistent improvement. So in conclusion, explosion moving average normalization is a simple design that reduces the issue of cross-sample dependency and parameter mismatch in multiple self-supervised and semi-supervised learning frameworks. EMAN makes consistent improvement on multiple self-supervised and semi-supervised frameworks with good generalization. The second work is called Humble Teachers Teach Better Students for Semi-Supervised Object Detection by Yi-Hee Tan, Wei-Feng Chen, Yijun Luo, and Yuting Zhang. So in this work, there's one standard supervised learning branch, and also there's an unsupervised learning branch utilizing unlabeled data. There's a combined loss during training. So in unsupervised learning branch, there's a student model taking strongly augmented image. And also the teacher model takes ensemble based on weakly augmented data. Then the teacher model will generate soft label to train the student model. The teacher model is being updated using exponential moving average algorithm as well. This Humber teacher model has been applied in semi-supervised learning for object detection and obtain consistent improvement. So in conclusion, this Humber teacher model for semi-supervised object detection observes good performance. The Humber teacher model generates soft pseudo labels when guiding the student model, and overall, this approach obtains improved results. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoen, Thomas, and Srinath. We're going to move to a quick Q&A, and it's going to be great to hear from you on a question that we often get at conferences, which is, what learnings or experiences at Amazon have you taken back with you and applied at your university, or do you hope to apply in the future? So Srinath, let's have you take this one first.
Sure, that's a good question, Lindsay. I've thought about this a little bit as well, and I think to me, what surprised me the most, pleasantly surprised me the most at Amazon was this culture of working backwards relentlessly from the goal, and I think that's very useful also in research, in academic research, because that allows you not just to focus on the high-level problems, but also think through the details of the solution that you might propose for a research question. So this is certainly something that I would be interested in taking into my research group in academia.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I can add to that. So, so typically when you stay in academia, then you often work at academic problems, and things work much better than they would actually do in reality. And yeah, working at Amazon with all these different customers and service teams, you actually get confronted with reality, and you get the reality check for all the methods that tend to be perfect already, but are actually far from being perfect in reality. And then you have to find the tweaks. And yeah, that makes you a little bit more humble, and also in academia. And I can also give that back to the students, also master students, who think that deep learning solves everything, and I can tell them that that's not true.
And also, I'd be happy to add to that. I'm a little bit kind of happily surprised to see how seamless it is in terms of the integration between academics and also industry. In recent deep learning in computer vision, it's natural, but also to some degree a surprise that you need to do research in Australia, almost like students or professors at the university. You have to keep up everything. We're reading papers constantly to make a better product. And that's, I think it's a very kind of pleasant experience because you don't need to, so I'm going to focus on fully the engineering side, but the engineering, a lot of the engineering tricks cannot be translated into really advanced technology. So you really need to have integration between the two in a seamless way.
Thank you all so much for those answers. I really like the emphasis on working backwards and application and integration. I think those are great themes to take away from today. And thank you again for your amazing presentations. That was just wonderful. If you have any questions, our team would be more than happy to welcome the opportunity to connect. So please reach out at academics-interest@amazon.com with any questions. And please stay in touch with us through any of the platforms that we've mentioned today, especially Amazon.science, which is a research site that features our customer-obsessed research. Thank you so much for attending, and thank you again to our wonderful panelists.
Thank you.